Another day of scrims, another matchup between OpTic Chicago and the Los Angeles Thieves. This is a matchup that we're going to be following all year with Nade coming back, LA Thieves back in the scene. This is just one that we're going to be watching or waiting for every time there's a potential LAN. Of course, there's no real news of that yet, but hopefully we'll get a LAN or two in by the time the 2021 CDL season is underway, or at least maybe midway through. But in this one, if we just talk a little bit about strategy, I want to talk about this entire scrim as a whole, but if we want to talk about strategy, one thing to point out here is that right at the beginning, you'll see that they've already flipped for P2. So when it comes to P2, you want to have the opposite spawn of where they're starting. So when Scum ran through into that small elbow closet right there and realized nobody was right here where he's currently at right now, he instantly turned around and he looked into vent room. And even though he got killed, that's fine, because what they were able to do is they were able to get despawns and have control of P2, as you see him right here looking up towards this top platform treehouse area. But they've done a much better job on this map of not only getting the kills early and getting time inside of P1, but the biggest thing is that when you're talking about money hills on each of these maps, this is one that you absolutely want to try to be in control of. So now that they're here, they're set up, they have spawns, they had the cut from platform, and they had the cut from mid. Even though they ended up going down, they had that mid cut from that P5 area. We'll break this all down in a second, but they've just been doing a much better job of setting up early and making the plays early so that they would have rotations going into P3. And now, as we are going into P3, that was a little bit of a mistake there from LA Thieves. So they ended up pushing over and over again, and they ended up pushing that mid cut through P5 a little bit too hard, because now as it's rotating towards P3, you want to have this back spawn, and they don't actually have it. So you see right there, Envoy got a kill on TJ. He also got a kill on Slasher, and Scum's going to get a kill right here on Kenny. And as he does that, Temp's the last one left. They know where he's coming from. So they were able to win those spawn rotations inside of P2. LA Thieves got a little bit overzealous, a little bit over anxious there, and kept pushing that P2. And as soon as that happened, OpTic was able to push through floating right here where Scum's looking. And now they have this back spawn also. So that's how they've gotten basically a 100-point lead, 110 to 10. And this is a much better start. I will say, before we break everything down, I will say that in terms of this scrim as a whole, OpTic went 1-3. So it's not like they were completely dominant, but that's been the story for them so long in this short season. We've been breaking down scrims for like 7 or 8 days now. And when I'm watching these scrims, I'm noticing that on a map or two, they do really well. They'll come out, such as in this one, they'll win by 100, 150 points, and they look great, but they haven't been able to sustain that throughout the course of 4 entire hardpoints yet. And that's something that'll come, right? When these maps are over, you hear the team, you hear Sender in the chat just kind of talking about what they did wrong, what they would like to change, what they should have done. They just have this constant brainstorming session every single map, and you can see that it's just, you can get the feel that it's just super early, and they're trying to figure out what's the best way to play each of these hills, each of these maps, each of those rotations. So right now, it's 149 to 27. They are getting time currently inside of P4, which is great. The one thing that they don't have is right now they don't have spawns for P5, but this is one of those hills, which we've talked about here a little bit over the last week or so, is that if you're able to get inside the hill and get control of both Adom, which is a building that's kind of by where that P2 hill is, and you can get control of this closet, which is where Temp was at right there, then you can control time inside of P5, and you can actually spawn trap the enemy team, even though they do have the good spawn. So we'll see if that's something that happens, but so far, this is so far so good, right? They're up by 100. There's 29, 25-ish seconds left inside the P5 hardpoint, and they're set up exactly how they want to be. But with that, I do want to go ahead. I want to pause this for the very first time and bring up our mini map here. And as we do, I just want to break down that P2 to P3 rotation so you guys fully understand what exactly happened there. So OpTic originally to start the map got this spawn, right? As they did that, they were able to push into P1. Once they got control of P1, you saw Scum push up into this elbow room right here that's by P5. And as soon as they got there, Formal got a couple kills up top platform. And as soon as that happened, that took LA Thieves and it spawned them out. So from there, you saw Scump turn around and look this way. And this is where he died to Temp, but no harm, no foul. They were easily able to win those spawns for P2. So speaking of spawns for P2, they were able to get inside of P2. We watched Scump get this cutoff up here. We also saw Envoy and Dashy watching this mid cut. This is the big play right here, because if you're LA Thieves, you have this spawn. If you come up through top platform right here, it is really tough to get inside of P2. So a lot of times what you'll see is somebody run through BDOM and try to hit this cut right here through bricks, or go through ADOM. This is the ADOM building right here. And as they do that, if they can get a kill shooting this person from behind, then you can push forward, get control of the hill, then you can push out, and you can kind of watch these choke points as OpTic comes up off of spawn. But with that, they weren't successful at doing that. So what happened is LA Thieves, they tried to do this push and they were successful, but they were successful with like 10 or 15 seconds left. So what that opened up is, as OpTic was inside of P2, that opened this push through P4 and they were able to get behind, which means now as the hills rotated and it went to P3, OpTic was able to get this spawn, get time inside of P3. We saw Scum set up over here. We saw somebody else, I don't remember who it was. We couldn't see the arrows. We didn't have the mini map, but set up here through the push through this platform area through P1. And we saw a couple kills come through in vet room right here. So how did the first set of hills transpire? That's exactly what we just saw. So they just did a nice job of rotating for P2, getting control of P2 early. They won in terms of P3, and then P4, they were just able to control time. And in P5, they didn't have the majority of the hill time inside of P5. They are going to get the last couple seconds here, but if you can win, essentially, if you can contest in P1, contest in P4, and win the rotations from P2 to P3, that's going to set you up really well in terms of heading into the second set of rotations with a fairly sizable lead. And that's what you see right here as they're up by 100. So the only thing is that as we get into the second set of rotations here, I am going to let you guys listen in because I want you to hear exactly what they're talking about in terms of strategy. But right now, they don't quite have the spawn setup that they did earlier. So you can see that Scump is trying to push through this bricks building to push out those back spawns so they could get spawns for P2, and they don't quite have those. So even though Scump did spawn there, so I don't love that spawn. We see that on certain maps, on Crossroads Strike. We see spawns like that where as it's rotating, we have one person spawning on the top side of one hill and the other team spawning on the bottom side of one hill. I don't love that he got that spawn because you heard him, or maybe you didn't. Maybe I don't have it turned up enough, but I heard him say, we flipped, when you didn't actually flip. You just got a parallel spawn to the other team. It just seems like there's a little bit in terms of spawn logic that could definitely be flipped. Now they've definitely flipped. So now it's come through. There's nobody else spawning in the back, but now there's only 35 seconds left. But still, you're up by 100. If you can get the last 30, 25 seconds, you're setting yourself up pretty well as it goes into P3, P4, and P5 second set of rotations. But best thing about scrims is that we can spend a little bit of time listening in. I'm still going to check in with you and just kind of point out the important things and the major plays that happen. But for right now, let's go ahead. Let's listen in to the OpTic Chicago team comms as we go from P2 to P3 in the second set of rotations.
I'm going right again, though.
Five, one shot. Johnny dead. Another one flat. Awesome.
More, push up to Mark. Yo, back left, back left. Pushing up.
She said, thank you for subscribing.
I don't see the guy back left.
I'm plat with you.
Take time, hitting front, guys.
Austin was here.
There's two in the close right corner.
Yeah.
My
Just
bad. I
making
should have
time.
played that a bit slower.
Oh, good. We can time.
Spawning mid still.
I think tools is like even though we got broke, I think that's like the best way to break that.
Plat, Donnie, plat,
Yeah,
Donnie,
plat,
Donnie.
Plat Donnie not
I
peeking.
spawn green, spawn green. One could be vent room.
Down dead. Play vent
Vent
together.
room, guys.
Vent. I'm weak. Nice
Drop,
kill.
drop. I'm playing aggressive
Front
mid.
heavy
I'm playing
slasher.
aggressive mid.
Front heavy slasher.
Nice,
dead.
show 3.
I'm playing aggressive middle.
Deep right, deep right.
I have across the hill.
Right dead.
Crossing it deep.
We talked a little bit earlier that there are 2 hills that are major money hills on this map. P2 is definitely one of them because you have the cut through bricks and the cut through top treehouse. When it comes to P3, this is also a major money hill because the only way to get through is from that mid cut, which is really tough to push through, which is where we saw Scump at the beginning of this map overall, or vent rooms, which offers just a nasty heady right there, or through P1, which you also have a nasty elevation advantage in terms of being up on that platform. So if you want to try to win this map overall, the best way to do so is by controlling P2 and P3. Let's listen back in.
TJ's in between the ACs, guys.
Yeah,
One's on our flat. One's on our flat too.
Low
coming down,
street,
coming down,
Donnie.
coming down,
Low
coming
street, Donnie. He's
Tap
gonna.
that.
He's
Here,
going
here,
vent side. He's going vent side, Donnie.
I don't see slasher at all.
Donnie is vent somewhere.
On
Top
time.
green, Kenny.
And
Kenny
green.
Nice.
Nice, close right time.
Hill.
He's there, their side
He's
box.
in close right. He's in
I'm
close right.
pushing. I'm pushing Donnie. Give me a sec. Give me a sec.
Yo, vent, Donnie.
Donnie dead.
Nice.
Heal me,
Top green,
TJ.
top green.
I don't see top green.
Underneath green. One shot in the hill, TJ. One shot hill. Nice.
Nice, good shit,
I'm
Dill.
top green still.
Green
Maybe
again?
top green. Yeah, top green.
Yo, be sure.
Evergreen push. They have to push this. They have to push this. Stay down, Dill. I'm looking over you.
Left street
They have
again dead.
trophies.
Yo,
Top
up mid,
trophy.
teach.
He's
Stay
up
down.
top green.
I have the push.
Pushed in time. Nice.
Behind us, maybe? Yeah, behind
From
us.
Good job.
So I just want to point this out real quick. Let me go back like 10 seconds. You heard Formal say a couple times there, they have to push this, right? So if you look on the left-hand side, you can see right now that it's 243 to 160, and there are 10 seconds left inside the current hard point, which means if you're 100 Thieves, you're spawning out over towards P2 and P5. They have to push this hill or they lose, because if they give up the last 10 seconds, that would put OpTic at 253, which would obviously you win the game if you get to 250. So if you're 100 Thieves, you have to push. And if you're getting that P2 spawn, you don't have a choice. You either have to run through B-Dom underneath or go through that top platform that Scum's looking at right here, which is why Formal was just telling Envoy to just stay down. I couldn't see exactly where he was, but it looks like he was in one of those front boxes if I'm looking up here at the mini map. So Formal's back here looking over top of him. Told Envoy, just stay down, stay hidden, and I'll take care of anybody that slides in, and that's exactly what happened. So just wanted to make sure that we were going through that right there at the end, because that was some pretty heads-up play, just realizing what the situation was, how much time was left in the current hill, and what they needed to win. So if you guys are new around here, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This is what I do every single day for the Black Ops Cold War season. Every single day, I take either a scrim or game footage, I break it down. I try to give you guys a little bit of a pulse in terms of what's happening in the community, who's beating who, who's losing to who, what the map counts are, and stuff like that. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button if that sounds good to you. Leave a like, as always, it helps out the channel. And with that, guys, thank you so much. We will see you in tomorrow's upload.